The Galactic Union Council chamber was a grand spectacle of alien architecture, floating high above a dying red star. Leaders from dozens of worlds sat around a massive circular table, their holographic projections flickering in the dim light. Voices echoed with frustration, the weariness of centuries of war etched on their faces. "We've lost 3 more sectors in the last month," said General Kress, his reptilian scales shifting as he spoke. "If the Dominion pushes any further, they'll reach the core worlds within the year." A murmur rippled through the chamber. It was a grim reminder of how badly the war was going. Once, the Union had been the galaxy's shining beacon of peace and unity, a coalition of species bound together by a common cause. But now, with their fleets decimated and their armies in retreat, hope was slipping through their fingers. "We need reinforcements. Allies." "Something," interjected Kroll, a tall, insected diplomat, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Our reserves are drained. We can't hold out much longer." "Allies?" Another voice scoffed. This one belonged to Xylus, an elder from the Andari homeworld, her crystalline body shimmering faintly. "Who else is left? We've already called upon every race capable of mounting a defense, and the Dominion crushes them all." The silence that followed was thick with despair. The Dominion, with its vast armies and advanced weaponry, seemed unstoppable. They had grown more aggressive with each passing year, systematically erasing entire civilizations in their pursuit of conquest. And now, with the Union's defenses crumbling, it was only a matter of time before the galaxy fell into their grasp. Just as the room seemed to sink into hopelessness, a sudden chime broke the quiet. A new transmission, unidentified, was coming through. Confusion flickered across the faces of the gathered leaders. There were no scheduled communications at this hour. "Who is it?" asked Kress, his voice sharp. The holographic display in the center of the table lit up, revealing a logo none of them had seen before, an emblem of Earth. A few gasps of recognition echoed from those familiar with the obscure world. Earth, home to the humans, was a planet most considered insignificant, a backwater on the fringes of known space. "Humans?" Kroll muttered in disbelief. The transmission began. A figure appeared, human, tall and imposing, clad in a sleek, dark uniform. His expression was unreadable, but his voice was firm, cutting through the tension in the room. "Leaders of the Galactic Union," he began. "I am Admiral Marcus Kane, representing the Terran Empire. We have been monitoring the war between your coalition and the Dominion for some time now. The situation is dire, and you are in need of assistance. The Terran Empire offers that assistance." For a moment, there was stunned silence. It wasn't just the audacity of the humans making such an offer, but the tone in which it was delivered. They spoke not as equals, but with the confidence of those who had something the Union needed desperately. "Your assistance?" Xylus' voice dripped with skepticism. "We are grateful for your concern, Admiral, but with all due respect, Earth is isolated? Forgotten?" Kane interrupted, his gaze hardening. "Perhaps. But we are not as primitive as your records suggest. The Terran Empire has been preparing. We've advanced, and we are ready to join this war." "Join?" General Kress narrowed his eyes. "Why now? Why have we never heard of your so-called empire?" "We had our reasons to remain hidden," Kane replied. "Until now. The Dominion threatens us all. And if they win, even Earth will not be spared." The room buzzed with whispered conversations, leaders exchanging looks of disbelief and curiosity. The Terran Empire was an unknown variable, and the Union had learned long ago to be wary of unknowns. But what choice did they have? Their backs were against the wall, and the Dominion was tightening its grip. "How can we trust you?" Kroll's voice rose above the others. "How do we know this isn't some ploy?" "You can't afford not to trust us," Kane answered bluntly. "We've already begun moving our fleets. If you doubt our capabilities, I suggest you observe our first engagement. You'll have your answer soon enough." There was a pause as the weight of his words settled over the council. Kress exchanged a glance with the others, weighing their options, though it was clear they had none. They needed any help they could get. even from an unexpected source like humanity. Very well, Kress said finally, his voice heavy with reluctance. We will observe your forces in battle. But know this, Admiral Kane, if you fail, you won't just doom yourselves. You'll doom us all. Kane's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile, though his eyes remained cold. Understood, General. We don't intend to fail. The transmission cut out, leaving the Union leaders to ponder the gamble they had just taken. A species once dismissed as irrelevant was now offering to become their saviors. It was a gamble born of desperation, but with the Dominion closing in, what other choice did they have? For better or worse, humanity was about to enter the war. The cold vacuum of space hummed around the Dominion armada as it surged forward, an unstoppable wave of destruction aimed at another defenseless Union colony. The Dominion's warships were sleek, deadly, and bristling with weapons designed to tear through anything in their path. They had grown overconfident, accustomed to victory, crushing their enemies underfoot for centuries. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, High Commander Varric sat in his command chair, his mandibles twitching in satisfaction. Another conquest, another victory. These inferior species were hardly a challenge. His crimson eyes scanned the data readouts as his fleet approached the planet, ready to unleash devastation. Then something unexpected happened. Commander, we're detecting unidentified ships on the long-range scanners, an officer reported, their voice tinged with confusion. Varric's eyes narrowed. The Galactic Union was known to throw whatever scraps of fleets they had left into futile attempts to protect their territories, but this didn't match any Union signatures. Who dares approach us? He growled. The answer came swiftly as a new fleet blinked into existence, their ships exiting hyperspace with a precision and grace that was unlike anything Varric had seen before. There were no elaborate designs, no unnecessary ornamentation. Just cold, efficient war machines, human vessels, dark and ominous against the backdrop of the stars. Humans? Varric sneered. His species had catalogued them centuries ago, a primitive race on an unremarkable world. Is this some kind of joke? Commander, they're moving into attack formation, the officer said, their voice faltering as the human ships began to deploy. They were smaller in number, but there was something about their approach that sent a chill through the crew. Let them come, Varric said, confidence swelling in his chest. They will be nothing more than another footnote in our conquests. The Dominion ships unleashed the first volley, massive energy cannons streaking toward the human vessels. Varric leaned forward, expecting the ships to shatter under the assault. But instead, the human fleet danced through the barrage, their movements precise, their shields absorbing or deflecting the energy in ways the Dominion had never encountered. Impossible, Varric hissed. Before his fleet could recalibrate, the humans struck back. Their weapons were not the crude, blunt instruments of a lesser species. These were advanced, devastating, and horrifyingly efficient. In a matter of moments, the first Dominion warship erupted into a cloud of fire and debris, its remains scattered across the battlefield. Varric's eyes widened. What are they using? He barked, slamming a fist against the armrest. But his crew had no answers, only more warnings as human missiles, railguns, and energy beams tore through the Dominion lines with frightening precision. The humans didn't fight like the Union. They didn't hesitate, didn't falter. Their tactics were unlike anything the Dominion had ever faced. Instead of grand, drawn-out engagements, the humans struck swiftly, using a combination of stealth, speed, and overwhelming force to dismantle the Dominion's formations. It was like watching predators toying with prey. Pull back! Varric ordered, a deep sense of dread settling in his gut. His ships tried to disengage, but it was already too late. The humans were everywhere, moving with an aggressiveness that left no room for retreat. Another Dominion ship exploded, then another, until the once mighty fleet was reduced to scattered wreckage drifting in the void. Silence fell over the bridge of Varric's flagship. His crew stood frozen, eyes locked on the devastation unfolding on the view screens. Never before had they seen such ruthlessness, such calculated destruction. Open a channel to the enemy, Varric commanded, his voice tight with fury. He would not let this humiliation go unanswered. "I want to speak to their commander." A moment later, the face of Admiral Marcus Kane appeared on the screen, his expression calm, almost bored. The stark contrast between the destruction around him and his composed demeanor was unnerving. "Hi, Commander Varric, I presume?" Kane said, his voice laced with cold amusement. Varric's mandibles twitched in anger. "You think this is a victory, human? You may have destroyed a few ships, but the Dominion will not fall to the likes of you." Kane's eyes flickered with something dangerous, a glint of superiority. "This was just the beginning, Commander. You've underestimated us for too long. The Terran Empire has been watching, preparing. And now we're here." Varric's claws dug into his armrests. "You're nothing more than a minor species playing at war. We will grind you into dust just as we have with every other enemy." Kane leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a low, chilling tone. "You've never faced anything like us. You thought you understood war, but you don't. Not yet. We're just getting started." The transmission cut off before Varric could respond, leaving him seething on his command chair, fists clenched in impotent rage. Around him, his officers scrambled to regroup, to salvage what remained of their forces. But the damage had been done. The once invincible Dominion Armada had been brought to its knees by a species they had barely considered a threat. Varric stared at the debris field, a sinking realization gnawing at the back of his mind. The humans had won this battle with shocking ease, and there was no telling what else they were capable of. The Dominion had never faced a race so aggressive, so adaptive. This was no minor skirmish. This was the dawn of something far worse. For the first time in his long career, Varric felt the icy grip of fear. The galaxy was beginning to speak in hushed tones about the Terran Empire. Whispers spread through the halls of the Galactic Union's Central Command, where high-ranking officials and military strategists convened daily to review the latest reports from the front lines. The war against the Dominion had been a losing struggle for years, each battle costing more resources, more lives, and more hope. But since humanity's arrival, everything had changed. General Rylak of the Renari Confederation stared at the latest battle report in disbelief. The humans were everywhere, infiltrating and dismantling Dominion strongholds with a precision and efficiency that bordered on terrifying. In just weeks, they had achieved victories that the Union's finest forces hadn't managed in years. Rylak clenched his jaw, unsure whether to be impressed or unnerved. Around him, other Union leaders discussed the implications of humanity's rapid rise in hushed voices. Some were in awe, praising the humans' ingenuity and resourcefulness. Others, however, were not so easily swayed. They worried about the power humanity now held and the sheer unpredictability of a species that seemed capable of almost anything. "I can't believe how quickly they adapt," murmured Admiral Thress of the Zaloran Alliance, her reptilian eyes narrowed. "One day, they're using guerrilla tactics in asteroid fields, and the next, they're engaging in direct fleet warfare as though they'd been doing it for centuries." "They haven't," Rylak muttered under his breath, feeling a weight of unease settle in his chest. It wasn't just the humans' tactical brilliance that bothered him. It was their sheer will to win, the cold determination that radiated from every encounter. They fought as if their survival depended on it, which, in many ways, it did. Their aggressive style of warfare, their relentless innovation, and their brutal efficiency in battle made them a force that was quickly changing the course of the war. But with that power came questions. Rylak's mind turned to darker thoughts. What would happen when the war was over? Would humanity be content to return to their own borders? Or had they tasted blood, now unable to stop until they reshaped the galaxy to their will? At the front of the room, the hollow map of the galaxy flickered to life. Dozens of battlefronts lit up, showing how far the war had progressed. In the past few cycles, Dominion forces had been pushed back in multiple sectors, their borders shrinking as humanity led charge after charge. The lines that once seemed insurmountable now bent under the weight of human ingenuity and firepower. "Look here," Thress said, pointing to a cluster of planets near the galactic core. "They've managed to breach one of the Dominion's most fortified positions. It would have taken us months, no years, to achieve that, And yet they did it in days. That's because they don't fight like us, said another official, shaking his head. They're reckless, willing to take risks we'd never consider. It's dangerous. It's effective, Therese snapped, her eyes gleaming. You think we can afford to be careful? We've been fighting a losing war for too long. If the humans can win this for us, we need to let them. Rylak grunted, his mind racing. Yes, the humans were turning the tide, but at what cost? Reports were already trickling in of Dominion soldiers speaking of the humans as if they were nightmares made flesh. Deathworlders, they called them, referencing Earth's deadly environment that had forged these terrifying warriors. To the Dominion, humanity was no longer just another enemy. They were something to be feared, something that could not be stopped. It wasn't just on the battlefield either. Humanity had begun to influence the Union's strategies as well. Already, alien commanders were integrating human tactics into their own fleets, mimicking their use of drones, AI, and unconventional warfare. The speed with which humans absorbed and adapted new technologies was nothing short of astounding. They took the best of what the Union had to offer and made it better, refining and reworking it into something devastatingly effective. For the Dominion, these new tactics were unlike anything they had ever faced. Their traditional methods of warfare, overwhelming force, rigid hierarchy, and predictable strategies, were crumbling against humanity's fluid, unpredictable style. The Dominion had fought countless wars before, but never against an enemy who seemed to thrive in chaos. And yet, despite humanity's successes, there was an undercurrent of fear. Rylak could feel it. The humans were proving to be not just powerful allies, but a potential threat. What would stop them from continuing their conquest once the Dominion was defeated? What would happen when humanity no longer needed the Union? It's only a matter of time before the Dominion falls, Therese said, her voice firm with conviction. We should be preparing for the aftermath. The aftermath? Rylak repeated softly, his mind turning over the possibilities. What would the galaxy look like once the war was over? Would humanity step aside, content with their role as the saviors of the Union? Or would they seize control, imposing their will on a galaxy that had long overlooked them? The room fell silent as everyone considered the same question. They had all seen the footage. Human soldiers on the ground, relentless in their pursuit of victory. Human fleets sweeping through Dominion-controlled space with terrifying speed. There was no denying that humanity had changed the war, perhaps irreversibly. But there was also no denying the unease that came with it. Rylak watched the holographic map, his eyes tracing the shrinking borders of the Dominion. With each victory, humanity grew stronger. And with each victory, the galaxy grew more uncertain of what the future held. The Terran Empire had entered the war as a savior, but Rylak couldn't shake the feeling that they might leave it as something far more dangerous. The stars above the battlefield shimmered as the final assault began. A massive Dominion fleet, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, loomed on the horizon, an armada of destruction prepared to deliver the killing blow. This was their last stand, everything the Dominion had left thrown into one desperate push to break the Union. Failure was not an option for them, and they had prepared to unleash their fury upon the galaxy. Their target, the core worlds of the Galactic Union, the heart of its power. If they fell, everything else would collapse. The Union forces were ready, but the difference now was that they weren't alone. Humanity, the Terran Empire, was at the forefront, spearheading the defense with a cold, ruthless efficiency. The Union had mustered every available ship, every last soldier, to defend their worlds. But it was clear, even to their most seasoned commanders, that without the Terran fleets, their odds of surviving this battle were slim. On board the human flagship, Admiral Royce observed the Dominion fleet. His face was set, unreadable, as his officers around him busied themselves with final preparations. Reports were coming in from all fronts, detailing the positioning of Union forces, Dominion fleet movements, and the readiness of the human warships. But Royce's mind was already on the weapon, humanity's ultimate secret, a weapon they had been preparing for this moment. It was time to unveil it. On my mark, Royce said, his voice steady. We show them what Earth is capable of. The battle began with a thunderous exchange of fire. Dominion ships surged forward, unleashing waves of plasma and kinetic projectiles, their numbers overwhelming the defensive lines. Union ships responded, but the Dominion's forces seemed endless, swarming with a ferocity born from desperation. Explosions filled the void as ships on both sides were ripped apart, entire squadrons vaporized in the crossfire. And then the Terran fleet moved. It wasn't just the strength of humanity's ships or the advanced technology they had developed, it was the way they fought. Their maneuvers were unpredictable, chaotic, as though they thrived in the heat of battle. The Dominion had no answer for it. Human ships broke formation, darting through gaps in the Dominion's ranks, striking with surgical precision. What should have been madness on a galactic scale instead became a masterclass in warfare. Dominion commanders shouted frantic orders, trying to adjust their tactics, but it was no use. The Terrans were relentless, cutting through their defenses with terrifying speed. Where the Union struggled to hold the line, humanity surged forward, driving deep into the heart of the enemy fleet. But the Dominion was not defeated yet. From the depths of their formation came their most fearsome weapon, a colossal warship, a dreadnought the size of a small moon. Its power was unmatched, a weapon designed to end worlds. As it approached the Union core worlds, its massive energy cannon began charging, a pulse of raw destructive power that could shatter planets. Panic rippled through the Union ranks as they realized what was coming. If the cannon fired, everything would be lost. Royce watched the dreadnought approach. He had been expecting this. The humans had known the Dominion would bring out their strongest weapon in this final battle. What the Dominion didn't know was that humanity had prepared something far worse. "Bring the weapon online," Royce ordered, his voice low but clear. Across the fleet, signals were sent, activating a device hidden aboard a human ship deep within their formation. The weapon humanity had developed wasn't just another superweapon. It was something entirely new, something that would change the course of warfare forever. A pulse of energy rippled through space, invisible to the naked eye but felt by every ship in the vicinity. For a brief moment, everything went still. And then, in an instant, the Dominion dreadnought, along with half of their fleet, simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, just silence. The weapon had wiped them from existence in a fraction of a second, an annihilation so complete it defied comprehension. The remaining Dominion forces faltered, disoriented by the sudden loss of their command ship and much of their fleet. Panic spread among their ranks, and their once coordinated assault crumbled into chaos. Union forces, inspired by humanity's devastating blow, rallied and pressed the attack. The tide of the battle turned sharply, with Dominion ships retreating in disarray, desperately trying to escape the onslaught. But humanity didn't stop. Royce gave the order, and the Terran fleet pursued the fleeing Dominion ships, cutting them down with ruthless precision. There would be no mercy, no quarter given. This was the end of the Dominion. As the last of the Dominion ships were destroyed, the battlefield fell eerily silent. What had begun as the greatest battle in the galaxy's history had ended in a matter of hours, and it was clear to everyone who remained that the war was over. The Dominion, once feared across the galaxy, had been broken. And at the center of it all stood humanity. In the aftermath, Union leaders convened, their relief tempered by a deep unease. They had witnessed the full extent of humanity's power that had not just defeated the Dominion, but obliterated them. There was no telling what the Terran Empire would do next, or whether they would ever be content to lay down their arms. Rylak, Thress, and the other commanders gathered around the central holomap once more, now showing the galaxy in a new light. The Dominion's territory was in ruins, its once mighty empire reduced to scattered remnants. And humanity, the Terran Empire, had emerged as the most powerful force in the galaxy. "This war is over," Rylak said quietly, staring at the map. "But the galaxy will never be the same." The others nodded in agreement, their expressions somber. Humanity had saved them, yes. But they had also shown the galaxy something far more frightening, what a Death World species, forged in the crucible of Earth's harshest conditions, was truly capable of. As the Union leaders disbanded, whispers of fear and awe echoed through the halls. The galaxy had shuddered as humanity entered the war. Now, it trembled at the realization that humanity had no equal. In the darkness of space, the Terran fleet began to regroup, their ships moving with a quiet, deadly grace. They had won this war. But for humanity, this was only the beginning.